I never thought I'd be the guy posting one of these stories. You know the ones. Relationship drama that sounds too crazy to be true. But here I am, typing this out at 3 a.m. because I can't sleep, can't think, can't do anything but replay what I saw on that camera feed. I need to get this off my chest, and maybe some of you can tell me if I am overreacting or if my world is actually falling apart like it feels. Some background. I am 28, been with my girlfriend Elise, 27, for almost 3 years now. We moved in together about 8 months ago. A nice apartment downtown, nothing fancy but it's ours. Or at least I thought it was. Elise works at a publishing house, I am in software development. Pretty normal life, or so I thought. Things were good at first when we moved in together. Really good. We talked about getting engaged next year, even started looking at rings. But about 2 months ago, something changed. Elise started going out more often in the evenings. At first, it was once a week, then twice, now it's almost every other night. She say she was meeting friends, going to a book club, networking events for work, always a different excuse. I didn't think much of it until I noticed other changes. She became protective of her phone, would take calls in another room, started dressing differently for these outings. When she come home, she be in this weird mood, sometimes giddy, sometimes distant. When I ask about her evening, she give vague answers and quickly change the subject. My buddy Derek said what we all thinking. She's cheating. I didn't want to believe it, but the signs were all there. Instead of confronting her, which, looking back, would have been the mature thing to do, I decided to find out for myself. Last week, I ordered a small hidden camera. Nothing fancy, just something that could connect to my phone and let me see what was happening when she thought I wasn't around. I know how this sounds. Invasion of privacy, breach of trust, all that. Trust me, I've been beating myself up about it. But I needed to know. I placed the camera on our bookshelf, angled toward the front door. Then I told Elise I had to work late on a project, but I actually parked a block away and watched the feed on my phone. She left around 7 p.m., dressed nicely but not too flashy. I waited, stomach in knots, watching our empty apartment. Around 9:30, I heard keys in the door. Elise walked in, but she wasn't alone. The person was still in the hallway, just out of the camera's view. I could only see Elise, standing in the doorway, talking to someone. She was smiling, that genuine smile I hadn't seen in weeks. Then she leaned forward, gave whoever it was a quick hug, and said, "Same time Thursday." I'll bring the wine this time. The door closed, and Elise leaned against it, sighing with this look on her face. Not guilt, not the face of someone having an affair. It was something else, something I couldn't quite read. I drove home an hour later, pretending I'd just gotten off work. When I asked how her night was, all she said was, "Oh, nothing special. Just the usual." That's when I knew I needed more info. I adjusted the camera angle the next day to capture more of the hallway. And yesterday, when she said she was going to her yoga class, I watched the feed again. This time, when she came back, I saw who was with her. I nearly dropped my phone when I recognized the face. It was my mother. My own mother was the person Elise had been secretly meeting. The woman who never approved of any of my girlfriends, who told me Elise wasn't right for me when we first started dating. The woman who, at our housewarming, had smiled tightly and said, "Well, I suppose she makes you happy, and that's what matters. What the hell are they doing together? And why all the secrecy? Why would my girlfriend be sneaking around with my mother behind my back?" After discovering that Elise was meeting my mother, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake next to her that night, watching her peaceful face, wondering what the hell was going on. Several times I almost woke her up to demand answers, but something held me back. I needed more information before confronting either of them. So yesterday, I called in sick to work. After Elise left for her job, I drove to my mother's house. She lives about 30 minutes outside the city in the same house where I grew up. I didn't tell her I was coming. I wanted to catch her off guard, maybe find some evidence of whatever was happening. My mother seemed genuinely surprised to see me. She was in her garden, pruning roses like it was any normal day. Not the behavior of someone harboring some dark secret, right, Jason? What a nice surprise, she said, removing her gardening gloves. Is everything okay? You never visit during the week. I made up a story about being in the area for a client meeting and decided to stop by. We went inside, had coffee, made small talk. The entire time, I was searching for any sign, any clue about what was happening with Elise. My mother's house was the same as always, meticulously clean, photos of me at various ages on the walls, everything in its place. Except for one thing. On her coffee table was a notebook I didn't recognize, leather-bound with a ribbon bookmark. When my mother went to the bathroom, I quickly flipped it open. Inside were what looked like notes, lists of names, dates, and locations. Some names were crossed out. Elise's name appeared several times, circled in red pen. There were other notes too, things like "still resistant" and "potential breakthrough." What the actual fuck? It looked like some kind of weird hit list or stalker journal. I snapped a few photos with my phone before my mother returned. When she came back, I casually asked about Elise, said I was thinking of proposing soon and wanted her opinion. My mother's face changed, just for a split second, before she smiled and said, "Oh, honey, I think you two are still getting to know each other. There's no rush, is there?" I left shortly after, mind reeling. That night, Elise said she was going to a work event. I checked the camera feed at the apartment, but she didn't come home. Instead, I tracked her phone location. I know, I am turning into a complete stalker, but I am desperate here. Her location showed she was at my mother's house. I drove there immediately, parked down the street, and watched. Through the living room window, I could see them sitting across from each other. They appeared to be arguing about something. My mother was gesturing emphatically while Elise shook her head. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but it definitely wasn't friendly. Then something happened that made my blood freeze. My mother grabbed Elise's wrist, hard enough that I could see Elise wince. She said something directly into Elise's face, and then, to my shock, Elise nodded submissively. What the hell kind of hold does my mother have over my girlfriend? I waited until Elise left, then followed her at a distance. Instead of heading home, she drove to a bar downtown, one we used to go to when we first started dating. She went inside and, about 10 minutes later, emerged with a guy the first never seen before. Tall, well-dressed, they seemed familiar with each other. They spoke briefly, then parted ways. When Elise finally came home, she was quiet, distant. She claimed the work event had been stressful. I wanted to confront her right there, demand to know what game she was playing with my mother, who the mystery man was. But I held back. I needed to understand the full picture before blowing everything up. This morning, I went through Elise's phone while she was in the shower. I found text messages between her and my mother going back months. They were using some kind of code I couldn't decipher completely, but phrases like, "the plan is working," and "he doesn't suspect anything," jumped out at me. I am setting up more cameras, one in our bedroom, another in the kitchen. Whatever is happening between my girlfriend and my mother, I am going to find out. And based on what I've seen so far, I don't think I am going to like the answer. Things have escalated quickly since my last update. What I've discovered in the past 48 hours has turned my understanding of everything upside down. I'll start with what happened yesterday. Elise told me she had plans with her sister, who was supposedly visiting from out of town. This was a lie. Her sister lives in Australia and hasn't been in the country for over a year. I checked social media. When she left, I followed her again, keeping my distance. This time, she drove to a coffee shop across town. Inside, she met with the same man from the bar. I parked and went in, choosing a table behind a pillar where I could watch without being seen. They were deep in conversation, heads close together, papers spread between them. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught phrases like financial arrangements and contract terms. At one point, the man said clearly, "Your mother-in-law is driving a hard bargain." Mother-in-law? We not even engaged. What the hell is going on? I left before they could spot me and went straight to my mother's house again. I used my emergency key to let myself in while she was out grocery shopping, her routine Thursday activity. She's nothing if not predictable. I went straight for that notebook I'd seen before. What I found inside made me physically sick. It wasn't just notes. It was a detailed plan. My mother had been vetting my girlfriends for years, apparently. There were names of women I dated in college that I never even introduced her to, complete with notes about their suitability and rejection strategy. But Elise's section was the largest, spanning several pages. I took photos of everything before putting it back exactly as I found it. Reading through the images later, I pieced together something terrifying. My mother has been systematically evaluating and eliminating women from my life. With previous girlfriends, she found ways to create problems, plant doubts, even manufacture situations that would lead to breakups. With Elise, though, something was different. The notes described her as stubborn and challenging, but also perfect for phase 2. What the fuck is phase 2? Further in, I found what looked like a contract draft. It mentioned financial considerations, property transfers, and maternal oversight of marital decisions. It was like my mother was negotiating some kind of arranged marriage deal, complete with conditions and payments. I was still reeling from this when Elise texted that she'd be home late. I waited up for her, cameras recording everything. When she finally came back around midnight, she wasn't alone. My mother was with her. They came into the apartment together. Elise clearly frustrated, my mother calm but insistent. I hid in our bedroom, listening through the door. "I can't keep doing this, Margaret," Elise said. "He's not stupid. He's going to figure it out. Don't be dramatic," my mother replied. We've come too far to back out now. Just stick to the plan and everything will work out. The lawyer has the papers ready." "And what if I refuse?" Elise asked. My mother's voice turned cold. "Then I'll make sure he sees every single one of those messages." "How do you think Jason would feel knowing what you really think of him?" "What you've been saying about him to me. The pictures on your old phone?" Elise was quiet for a long moment. "You a bitch, you know that? A controlling, manipulative bitch." My mother laughed. "Darling, I am just looking out for my son's future. And our arrangement benefits you too. Don't forget that. 2 more weeks, that's all I am asking." They argued a bit more before my mother left. When Elise came to bed, she slipped in quietly, probably thinking I was asleep. I could feel her trembling beside me, and I heard her quietly crying. This morning, I checked her phone again. There were deleted messages I managed to recover using a data recovery app. What I found was a series of exchanges with my mother going back to before we even moved in together. He'll never know. "Trust me, this works out for both of us. Remember, act natural. I'll handle everything else. The trust fund alone is worth over $2 million. Just 2 more years and half of it is legally yours." "Trust fund? I don't have a trust fund. At least, not that I know of. I am in too deep now to confront them without understanding the full picture. Tomorrow, I am going to visit my father's old lawyer. Dad passed away 5 years ago, but his attorney still handles some family matters. Maybe he knows something about this trust fund my mother mentioned. One thing is becoming clear. My mother is manipulating both me and Elise. And Elise, the woman I thought I was going to marry, is apparently playing along with whatever sick game this is. I met with my father's lawyer yesterday. What I learned has shattered everything I thought I knew about my family. Mr. Greenberg was surprised to see me. Jason, he said, I wasn't expecting you for another 2 years. When I asked what he meant, his face changed. Your mother hasn't told you, has she? According to Mr. Greenberg, my father didn't leave everything to my mother as I'd been told. He left the bulk of his estate, the car dealerships, properties, investments, in a trust for me. I was to receive everything on my 30th birthday, which is less than 2 years away. My mother was only the trustee, managing the assets until then. The estate is worth close to $8 million. My mother has been living off the trust's income, acting as though it was her money all along. She's only entitled to 30% of the income. The rest should have been reinvested for me. But there was more. There's a stipulation in your father's will, Mr. Greenberg explained, pulling out the document. If you marry before your 30th birthday, you get immediate control of the trust instead of having to wait. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. And if I don't marry, then your mother continues as trustee until you turn 35, with the same income arrangement. Everything suddenly made horrible sense. My mother has been preventing me from getting serious with anyone because the moment I marry, she loses control of millions. But with Elise, something changed. Instead of driving her away like the others, she's been negotiating? Buying her cooperation? I asked Mr. Greenberg if my mother could legally make deals involving my inheritance. He looked concerned and said absolutely not. Any side agreements promising parts of my trust to others would be fraudulent and likely criminal. I drove home in a daze, trying to process what this meant. Was Elise just another gold digger who saw an opportunity? Or was she somehow being coerced by my mother? Last night, I decided to force the issue. I told Elise I was working late again, but instead, I waited in my car outside our apartment. When my mother arrived, I gave them 15 minutes before I went in. The scene I walked into was straight out of a bad movie. My mother and Elise were sitting at our dining table, papers spread between them. They both froze when I walked in. Jason, Elise jumped up, her face pale. You're supposed to be at work. Clearly, I said. I looked at the papers on the table. Legal documents, from what I could see. What's going on here? My mother recovered first, sliding the papers into a folder. Just some women's business, honey. Nothing for you to worry about. Women's business? I laughed bitterly. That's what you calling fraud now, mother. Her face hardened. I don't know what you talking about. I talked to Greenberg today. I watched as understanding dawned on her face. I know about the trust. I know about Dad's will. I know everything. My mother's transformation was terrifying. Gone was the warm, protective woman I thought I knew. In her place sat a cold, calculating stranger. You have no idea what I've done for you, she hissed. Everything I've done has been to protect you. Protect me? By controlling my life? By chasing away anyone I might care about? I turned to Elise. And you? What was your price? Half of my trust fund if you played along? If you manipulated me into what? Marrying you on my mother's schedule. Elise was crying now. Jason, it's not what you think. Then what is it? Because from where I am standing, it looks like the two women I trusted most in the world have been plotting behind my back, treating my life like some kind of sick chess game. My mother stood up, gathering her things with dignified rage. You just like your father, naive, sentimental. Do you think these women care about you? They see dollar signs, Jason. All of them. At least with Elise, I made sure you be protected. Protected how? I demanded. She gestured to the folder. Prenuptial agreement. Ironclad. She gets nothing if she leaves you within 10 years. It was the only way to make sure you wouldn't be taken advantage of when you inevitably got married and triggered the trust. I looked at Elise, who couldn't meet my eyes. And you agreed to this? To marry me under contract to my mother? It's more complicated than that, Elise whispered. My mother headed for the door. They only ever wanted what's best for you, Jason. Someday you'll understand that. She paused at the threshold. And Elise, our arrangement is terminated. You're on your own now. With that, she left. The silence that followed was deafening. Elise sat at the table, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. I remained standing, afraid that if I sat down, I might collapse from the weight of all these revelations. Tell me everything, I finally said. And if you lie to me again, we're done. What she told me next changed everything once more. This will be my final update. First, thank you to everyone who followed this twisted story and offered support. I never expected my life to implode like this, but here we are. After my mother stormed out that night, Elise broke down completely. Through her tears, she revealed the full truth about her relationship with my mother, and with someone else I never suspected was involved. Your mother approached me 6 months after we started dating, Elise began. She knew things about me, Jason. Things they never told anyone. Elise revealed that before we met, she had been in an abusive relationship that ended badly. Her ex had taken compromising photos of her without consent and threatened to release them if she ever spoke about the abuse. She'd been quietly dealing with this trauma all along. Somehow, your mother found out about everything, Elise continued. She showed up at my workplace one day with a folder containing copies of those photos and a detailed report about my ex. My mother had offered Elise a deal. Play along with her marriage plan, and she would make sure those photos disappeared forever and that her ex would never bother her again. If Elise refused, my mother implied the photos might find their way to me or even online. I was terrified and ashamed, Elise admitted. I didn't want to lose you, but I also couldn't bear the thought of you seeing those photos or learning about that chapter of my life that way. So she agreed, believing my mother would eventually back off. Instead, the demands escalated. My mother wanted Elise to sign a prenuptial agreement that would give her continued control over my trust fund even after we married. Elise would get a small percentage, but my mother would remain the primary beneficiary, a completely illegal arrangement. I kept hoping I could find a way out, Elise said. But every time I tried to push back, your mother would remind me of what she had. Then about 2 months ago, I reached my breaking point. That's when Elise made a desperate move. She contacted the mystery man I'd seen her with, who turned out to be a private investigator named Martin. She hired him to find dirt on my mother, something she could use as leverage to break free from her control. Martin discovered something neither of us expected, Elise said quietly. It's about your father's death. My father died of an apparent heart attack 5 years ago. He was alone at home while my mother was supposedly visiting her sister. No autopsy was performed because he had a history of heart problems. It seemed straightforward at the time. Martin had uncovered evidence suggesting my father's heart medication had been tampered with in the weeks leading up to his death. Bank records showed unusual withdrawals from my parents' joint account to an offshore account. Phone records revealed calls between my mother and a former pharmacist with a suspended license. Your mother didn't just manipulate your relationships, Jason, Elise whispered. Martin believes she may have killed your father to get control of his money. I didn't want to believe it, but the more I thought about it, how convenient the timing of my father's death had been for my mother, how quickly she'd taken control of everything, how she lied about the inheritance, the more horrifyingly plausible it seemed. I asked to speak to Martin directly. The next day, he showed me everything he found. It wasn't definitive proof, but it was enough to warrant a real investigation. Together, the three of us went to the police. That was 2 weeks ago. The investigation is ongoing, but my mother was brought in for questioning yesterday. They exhuming my father's body for a proper autopsy. The financial forensics team is tracing all the suspicious transactions Martin uncovered. As for Elise and me, we're working through this together. They moved all my things out of our apartment temporarily. Not because I blame her, but because we both need space to process everything. She's in therapy now, dealing with both the old trauma of her abusive ex and the new trauma my mother inflicted. The trust fund situation is being sorted out by Mr. Greenberg, who was horrified by what my mother had tried to do. It looks like I'll gain control of it immediately due to the circumstances, regardless of my marital status. The most surreal moment in all of this came 3 days ago. I was at my mother's house with the police as they executed a search warrant. In her bedroom closet, behind a false wall panel, they found a small safe. Inside was a flash drive containing not just the photos she used to blackmail Elise, but similar material on at least 4 other women they dated over the years. Each folder was meticulously organized with notes on how to leverage this information. My own mother had been stalking and gathering blackmail material on every serious girlfriend I ever had, all to maintain her control over my father's money. The detective handling the case pulled me aside during the search. "Your mother is quite possibly a sociopath," she told me. "The level of calculation and manipulation here. This isn't normal, even for financial crimes." Last night, something unexpected happened. I was staying at a hotel downtown, trying to clear my head, when Elise showed up at my door. She didn't say much, just handed me a small box and waited. Inside was the engagement ring I'd been secretly saving for. I'd hidden it in my sock drawer months ago, planning to propose on our upcoming anniversary. She must have found it during one of her searches for evidence against my mother. "I found this while looking for anything that might help us against your mom," she admitted. I've been carrying it around ever since, wondering what might have been if none of this had happened. We talked until sunrise, about betrayal, forgiveness, trauma, and healing. About whether it's possible to build something real on the ashes of so many lies. I don't know what will happen with us. Part of me still loves her, still sees the woman I fell for. Another part wonders if I can ever fully trust again, not just her, but anyone. What I do know is this: my mother will likely face charges for financial fraud at minimum, possibly much worse if the autopsy finds evidence of foul play. The woman I thought I knew never really existed. Just a facade hiding a calculating, cruel manipulator who saw people only as pieces to move around her personal chessboard. As for Elise and me, that story isn't finished yet. We're taking it one day at a time. She's moved in with a friend for now. We're seeing a couples therapist next week. I don't know if we'll make it, but at least we're facing the truth together. Sometimes the shadows we meet turn out to be the people we thought we knew best. The most terrifying monsters aren't strangers lurking in dark alleys. They're the ones sitting across from you at family dinner, smiling as they plot to control your life. Thank you all for watching this incredible story. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. What do you think about this tangled family drama? Do you think the relationship between Jason and Alice has a future after all that has happened? Is his mother really to blame for his father's death? Write your thoughts in the comments below. Also, don't forget to click on the bell to get notified of new videos. Every day we publish new exciting stories that keep you in suspense until the last second.